Last week, we talked about creation, and we talked about the whole fact that in behind the creative act is the movement of the Spirit, to which I tried to give you some brief indications of how you might be able to perceive it. Today I want to talk about another spiritual act in which God has wanted to manifest and pitch his tent and dwell inside each and every one of you. And in the readings that are provided for us today, we have evidence that God, in fact, is very much a part of our life, wants to dwell in our flesh, and wants very much for us to become his hands and feet so that the outcome of creation might work to his full intent. But before I get into that explanation, let's just look at the passages that are provided for you today. I really like this particular story in Genesis because it is God speaking to his holy realm, and he wants to make human beings, male and female. And what he does is he breathes into their nostrils the breath of life, nephesh in Hebrew, which means will, personality, spirit. So you have been given a will that drives you to do what you do. You have a personality that's unique to your own. And there is also a life-giving activity of God's Spirit within you. God is a part of you. He has lent the very essence of his life to yours so that you can have life. And he's very proud of you. He is happy to have made you. And he's also given you one important thing that he also has: the right to make your own decisions, to be responsible for yourself. And one of the things you'll notice in the story is that we've been asked to be gardeners of our world. God has made us the chief gardener of this planet. And he wants us to enjoy it, to live our life from it, to thrive and to be prosperous in the midst of it. We have been asked to look after what he has made and to make it fundamentally an important part of our life. And this created order is not separate from you. It abides with you. You derive life from it just as much as you take life out of it so that you can live. It is a cycle that cannot be broken. And we have to learn to live in this symbiotic relationship between the created order and our human will and drive to succeed. In Philippians, Paul is under house arrest, and he's writing to a church in Philippi that has been facing persecution and division. And one of the things that Paul notices is that they keep complaining each to the other, and they're constantly battling for will as to what is the correct direction for their church. And Paul lifts up Christ's example, and this is what he says. Jesus, who knew God, did not count equality with God to be grasped. He's a human being, just like you and me. One day he will face his death, as all of us will. We will not live forever. We are only here for a time. And we have to make that time count by learning to be slaves, or better yet, servants to each other. This life is not about what you want, or what you need, or what you think you deserve. It's all about what you can give to the world. You're not here strictly for yourself. You're here to give of your talent and to lend an expression of God's unique ability and of his diverse nature. But you're not here to impose your will. This is not your life. This is God's life working through you. And until you understand that, you will continue to go against the very intention that God has for your life. Like Jesus, you will have your cross to bear. At some point, you will die. Be obedient to the cycle of life. That doesn't mean that you surrender in anguish to what you face. But at the same time, understand that there will be a moment when you will have to go. And finally, the last one that's very important by Jesus himself. The disciples are debating about who should be the most regarded amongst the disciples. And Jesus is saying this: you know the rulers of the world. They rule with authority. They make a decision and they impose it. They don't talk to you about it. They don't consult with you. They make a decision in their best interests. But real people, real leaders don't do that. They seek consensus. They seek to involve you in their decision. And they seek to do what is good for the greater good of the world, not for themselves. And Jesus says that's what you're here for. All right. Humanity, the Imageo Dei in Latin, the image of God. What is this image of God? Well, first of all, understand this. There's a prime imperative that you have to fulfill. You are here to be a good manager of what you've been given. This is yours to enjoy, this whole world. It's for you to grow in order that you might become, and it's to allow you to lend your expression to the divine intimacy that you have with your God. Because God has given all of us a different reflection of his own personality, and I've always said this. God's personality is like a kaleidoscope of many different colors, of many different fashions of expression. Not one aspect of God does not include some other aspect of God. And all of you have been encompassed with that tremendous reflection. You have been called to be good stewards, to take care of what you have. Because if you don't, you will destroy your life and the future of your next generation. We have to learn to live with what we have in our many limitations. Because this world is not just for our own aggrandizement. It's not only for our success. It is for the reflection of the love of the universe by which everybody is to be included in the great cosmic dance that gives revelation that there is a God who has compassion for his children. And we are his children. And he wants you to walk with the happiness of knowing that your life is a gift. Now, I know that many of you are facing trouble. This past week, I heard about 3 people diagnosed with cancer. I bumped into a person who's also looking for another job. I've heard lots of concerns around broken relationships, health issues. And this life is really very difficult for all of us to live. And I understand that you want to be in control of your destiny. I do too. I don't like to surrender my own control. I like to be the master of my universe. But sadly, God didn't make me to be master of my universe. He made me to be a reflection of one aspect of his being for all of you who are here and all of the people outside these 4 walls. This is not my life. This is just a stage in my development, in your development, in which we lend to a greater understanding of the mutuality that is ours to have together. God breathed into your nostrils the breath of life, nephesh, personality, will, and spirit. That which he gave to you will never die, but it will change from flesh to spirit, possibly to flesh again. There is a recycling, in the universe. We talked about that last Sunday, about black holes emitting radiation. And one of the things that Stephen Hawking discovered is that all the material of the universe is being sucked in by black holes, but there's a little bit of radiation always escaping. And the theory was, especially by Einstein, is that no material would escape a black hole, and everything would be crushed and smashed to its common basic element. But he discovered little bits of radiation, because black holes are recycling in the universe, bringing back the material from whence it came, crushing it down, making it into a new form. Now, I'm going to say something here I know that many of you will be upset about, but be patient with me. I was loading a truck with a gentleman who had a science background. He had a PhD in science, and he always talked about science with me while I was packaging trailers for Schneider's. loading up beef and stacking it. He was a stout, very strong man, very intelligent, extremely brilliant. And he knew that I was going to go into the ministry. And he said to me, "Did it ever occur to you that when you die, you return to the elements from whence you came?" Well, I always thought we'd go to heaven. I always thought I'd go to see my mother and father, or those who have gone before, and I'd be reunited with them in this happy land. And he says, "Did you ever think that when you die, you're just going to return to the elements so that the universe can continue?" Oh, that scared me. "You mean life after death is that I'll be a molecule?" "Yes," he said. Now that's a scientific argument, but here's the point. Maybe that molecule is my nephesh, your nephesh. It goes back from whence it came, God. I don't want to debate life after death. That's not what I'm here to discuss. But my point to you is this. God has infused himself in the fiber of your being, and he asks you to be a good manager of what you have, to reflect the divine intention of God in a broken world. Number 2, Jesus understood that none of us can be God. He himself also said that. He couldn't be God. Even though God dwelt with him, he could not control the factors of life. Oh, he performed miracles, yes, and people were healed, yes. But at the bottom end of the day, Jesus knew that he would end his life in great tragedy, as he was opposing the forces of his day, trying to reform Judaism, which he knew he was losing. And Rome was very upset by his speeches about being the Son of God, being the new king who would replace the old kingdom of Israel. Jesus knew he was upsetting the apple cart, and he knew his time would come. But look what he did. He did not seek equality with God as something to be grasped, but he decided to serve others and to be obedient to the fact that one day he will die. The other day I was watching a wedding that was being performed here. I wasn't doing the ceremony, but I had to be here to open the doors and make sure everything was set. And I saw this beautiful bride and her husband. I saw them filled with the future that they were going to have in terms of children and their life. But one of the things I noticed is they were caught up with their life. As they should be. They're in love. They're getting married. Isn't that wonderful? But here's the problem. Marriage takes work. Marriage takes compromises. You don't get everything you want in your marriage. Don't you gentlemen get this yet? Girls, you know all about that, don't you? Marriage isn't for me. It's what I choose to live in. But it's a compromise, and it's a work of art. And it's a struggle, and it's a fight sometimes. It's a wrestling to learn to be a servant to your partner, not to be your master of your partner. Gee, my dad had it lucky. He was master of the house. What he said went, and mother bowed. Doesn't work in my house like that. She's having a good time. But my point to you is this. This life is not about you, and you have to learn it's all about what you can give, what you can sacrifice, what you can be for the building up of another. If everybody would give a little of themselves to help someone, this world would be a wonderful place. But all of us grow up, as did I when I was young, that I would be this, that I would do that I would make this kind of money, that I'd have this kind of house. That's not life. It's not about me and my achievements and my university degrees and all the things I labored over. Those are pieces of paper so that I could get this job. But at the end of the day, those pieces of paper matter not. My achievements matter not. I have a building in Redwater with my name on it because I helped support the funding for it. Well, babe, what do you do? I wonder how many people stop and look at that plaque and see my name and go, oh, there's a good man. He helped build this great facility we have. That's nonsense. Because it's not about me. It's about wanting to be a servant, to work to the greater good. Which leads me to my last point. What is the greater good? To lift up what is good, the bold and the beautiful. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about what we can do for others. And this is not something you do on your own. It is a mutual expression where we share, where we decide together, and we wrestle together, and sometimes we say nasty things to each other. Because we're trying to get to what the good, the bold, and the beautiful is. We don't all have consensus on what is the good, the beautiful, and the bold. We don't have the consensus or the answer in ourselves. But collectively we do if we realize that real leadership is not only trying to serve, but learning also in that servanthood to be able to open it up for others to help us. Let me give you a simple case in point. The other day I was called to the hospital to see a person who's having particular issues, and I took time to be with that person. That person was looking for a handout. I said no. What a terrible thing to do, to say no to somebody who's looking for a handout. I felt particularly guilty, but that person doesn't need a handout. That person needs to learn to take responsibility. That's also being a servant. I am very good at helping people who want help. I can give you the help you want. But sometimes I've learned you have to find that help out for yourself. And so I will talk to you, I will pray with you, I will help you see the issues, but it's your life. Take responsibility. You're a steward, just as I am. I will take care of my backyard. Can you take care of yours? And when I can take care of my backyard, I hope there'll be somebody there who can say, let me help, just as I would like to help. But not that I make you a force to be attached to my ankle that weighs me down like a millstone. That's not helping anybody. I want you to be independent, proud, that you made up your own mind and took responsibility for your own decisions, and that you had somebody who prayed for you, who loved you, who believed in you, who cradled you, and allowed you to wrestle openly without any discrimination or judgment. Because at the end of the day, we all need friends. We don't need rulers. We don't need men of authority or women of authority. We don't need some Messiah to come down from the sky to save us. We have that potential in ourselves. As long as we realize we are here, not for ourselves, but for others. Amen.